Okay, for those of you who don't know, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, it's a nonpartisan department that essentially crunches numbers on government programs. Not surprisingly, Republicans fucking hate the CBO reports, which are based in facts, unlike most Republican reports, which are based in no taxes would help Jesus make cheap oil. Okay? So, for instance, the CBO routinely disputes the notion that tax cuts create jobs. And on those days, the Republicans come out and say, "Shut up, nerds!" Right? That's how they react to that kind of CBO.
That's right.
And for the most part, the news media lets them get away with it because, you know, numbers equals snooze. Okay? Yeah, they don't want to talk about it. But recently, the CBO published a new report on the Affordable Care Act, meaning Obamacare. And let me quote verbatim from that. The CBO estimates that the ACA will reduce the total number of hours worked on net by about 1.5% to 2% during the period from 2017 to 2024, almost entirely because workers will choose to supply less labor. So what this means is that, say, some people have a job and the only reason they have that job is because they have an illness, so they have a pre-existing condition and they can't get health care, so they go work this shit job they don't want to work, but because they get on their group health care, right?
And then they can't leave that job.
And then they can't ever leave that job because they'll never get health insurance. They have to stay in these...
Or they could stay in the job and just get COBRA, and that's so inexpensive. That's only like $18,000 a month.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we understand that, they understand that, and you'd have to be either a total dumbass or willfully deceptive to misinterpret the CBO's report, right?
That's the standard choice nowadays.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell.
The CBO report is certainly not pretty if you're interested in creating jobs in America. As we all know, they estimate up to $2 million fewer jobs will be created as a result of Obamacare. Honestly, it's not a surprising report. All the anecdotes you hear all across the country are that premiums are going up and jobs are being lost.
Okay, so that was complete bullshit, right? So he's just making that stuff up.
Even his anecdote was inaccurate.
Even his
anecdote about anecdotes was inaccurate. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that bullshit that he said was very, very quickly debunked by the media, which is also very rare, by the way, that they debunked it. But also the next day, Doug Elmendorf, you know, he's the head of the CBO.
Yeah, I was going to say, that guy sounds like a loser who never gets laid.
Well, let's show a picture of Doug Elmendorf. So this guy, Doug Elmendorf, who, in case you haven't seen him, looks like he might be Leonard Maltin's slightly less fuckable brother. He came out the next day after that and cleared it all up and said, no, what's really happening is what we said happening is that they're not losing, the ACA isn't making the economy lose jobs. What the ACA is doing is now freeing people out of dead-end jobs that have to stay in, and now someone else will come in and do that job. It's not like that job's going to go undone. It's not like somebody's getting rid of that job.
Right, the companies aren't saying we're not going to have this job because of Obamacare.
Correct. So now the Republicans are kind of trapped. They put the CBO report in the news cycle. They're the ones who brought it up. But it doesn't support their position that Obamacare will rape your children and give you cancer, right? So, and now let's enter, here comes soulless Chris Wallace, the bad Wallace. And he's interviewing head trauma victim Senator Roy Blunt. And this is a little piece of political theater that sounds like it was written by David Mamet, okay? So Chris Wallace is going to go ahead and ask that same question to Roy Blunt about what's wrong with being, here you go, play the thing and we'll see.
Senator Blunt, what's wrong with that, the idea of fewer people locked into jobs?
Well, I think any law you pass that discourages people from working can't be a good idea. Why would we want to do that? Why would we think that was a good thing?
See what happens? As a rule, Republicans, when presented with the truth, respond by repeating their bullshit, which is what he just did. That's what he just did. Yeah, you see, here's the thing, Steve. Anytime people's lives are made easier by government, wealthy people die a little.
You know, I think, Jimmy, you got to cut Roy Blunt a break because this whole week he's been so busy praising his fellow Missouri native Michael Sam for courageously coming out, that he probably didn't have time to read the CBO. He just looked at the talking points from Mitch McConnell. Now that he'll read it now and he'll realize it, he will feel like a fool.
And let's just, he's just saying it blatantly that, oh, it's discouraging people from working. The ACA does not discourage people from work. What it does is it discourages people from working the work that is the shittiest work they don't want to do. That's what it does. Okay. So let me just give you the subtext of what he just said. What Roy Blunt just said, here's the subtext. Hey, Joe American, you have to work. Why should these assholes get to not work? That's what he's saying. He's pitting poor people against poorer people. He's like, you have to work for health care. How come these pricks don't have to work for health care? Right? That's exactly what he's saying. So he's missed. So now, remember when Republicans used to say family and family and family, and we got to have the family, and it's all about the family and family values. And well, this ACA is going to help people spend more time with their family, right? So you don't have to work that second shitty job for the healthcare. Now you can take off and you can stay home with your family. So that's what's happening. And well, it turns out all that Republican stuff about family was all bullshit if it means a black president might reform healthcare.
That's right, yeah. Especially if it's about poor families. That really wasn't quite what they meant.
Also, they like to say small business, family, small business, family, small business. But if the ACA allows you to leave the regular workforce to start a small business, then you're a piece of shit, I guess, according to the ACA. If you quit your job that you don't want anymore, go start a small business because you can now get health care because of Obamacare, you're a piece of shit. Hey, 63-year-old grandma working at Starbucks to get your arthritis medication, get back to work, you lazy fuck. Yes, okay. So Chris Wallace goes on. He presses Roy Blunt on this.
I think he's with Ben Cardin this time.
All right, so now he's with the Democrat. Good catch, Ben. So now he's with the Democrat, and he's trying to explain to the Democrat, just explained all that stuff that I just explained to Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace acts like he doesn't know what's happening, and he says this.
Senator Cardin, if I may, though, I understand if somebody doesn't want to work and they can get their health benefits, and in fact they'll get them cheaper because the subsidy rises as their income lowers, that's fine. But why do I, or you as a taxpayer, why do we have to subsidize that?
Yes, that's a great point. Why should a rich guy like Chris Wallace pay taxes, and then some of those taxes go to help someone who's not as rich as Chris Wallace is? That is bullshit. Hey, why? And by the way, those taxes Chris Wallace is paying going to help someone of a totally different race. You know what I'm saying? Very often. He's a taxpayer, not a blackspayer. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, is that any difference there at all from saying, like, listen, Senator, my kids, they go to private school.
Yeah.
And then they went to Princeton. Why do I have to subsidize somebody who goes to public school?
Yeah, why do they're taking my money for their kid.
Their kid, not my kid.
Yeah, why do my taxes have to go to build a road in Compton? I don't understand that.
I never go there except to buy drugs and get a tranny hooker. Can't. I immediately denounce myself for the use of the word tranny.
So he explains it again to Chris Wallace, that senator that's sitting with, explains it to him again that we're not actually losing jobs and all this stuff, and that we're gonna, if someone stops working a job, someone else will come in to fill it. I don't know if you know, we have 7% unemployment in America, so there's a lot of people looking for work.
Again, it's not the job, it's the people.
It's the people.
Right.
By the way, you know why his taxes should go to pay for that? Because it creates a more stable society. It is as important to create a stable healthcare system as to have good roads, reliable energy, good communications. That's why he should pay for it. Not because it's going to somebody who's poor or lazy, or because it benefits his life directly.
It's a great point,
I
Sharon.
don't know. I disagree. I prefer having an elderly person serve me a burger. I really do.
Robert made such a good point. I can't believe I didn't steal it from him first. And, all right, so he explains it to Chris Wallace about we're not really going to lose those jobs out of the economy, and here's what Chris Wallace says back.
Well, you say that these jobs will be filled. That assumes a booming economy, which we don't have. Even
Yeah, we don't have a booming economy. We just have millions of people desperate for work and 2.5 more million jobs being available. I don't think this is going to work. How does that?
How is it gonna? It's not gonna.
Anyway,
You know, if I may indulge me, and I forgive if this is a little difficult what I'm going to ask for, but can we put up a shot of the first clip, just a shot where we see Roy Blunt,
oh, Roy Blunt.
the senator from
Are we
Missouri,
allowed to do that?
I think we're going to do that.
and then I would like to see a shot afterwards of Chris Wallace, any of the shots of Chris Wallace.
Why?
Because like I think that hair tells you a great deal about the kind of person you're going to get.
Oh, yeah?
Like you can't necessarily, you might see somebody with great hair and they might be an ass. But if you see somebody with the hair of Roy Blunt or Chris Wallace, who is headed for Roy Bluntsville as quickly as he could get there, you know these guys are trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
By the way, by that logic,
yeah.
Joe Namath would be the greatest pundit of all time.
That's totally right.
I want to hear what that guy has to say now.
That's funny. So I think Chris Wallace, I just love the fact that he's like, why should my taxpayer dollar, why is it the taxes I pay go to help someone else? Like it doesn't, why, you mean all the taxes I pay, why don't they just go right back into my pocket? Why don't they go to set up a new dock in the marina for my yacht? I don't understand why the taxes I would pay would help someone else.
Wouldn't it be great if Ben Cardin had said, because that's what your taxes do.
That's what we do with taxes.
That's what we do all the time with them.
Yeah, rich people don't get back in all the taxes.
You're also not fighting in Afghanistan, but some of your tax dollars went there.
Yeah,